My apologies for the hiatus in transmission, but it's just recently that I've managed to convince the rogue trader who allowed me to be part of his crew to facilitate this broadcast. To elaborate on recent events, the encounter I feared with the Inquisition occurred, and they just happened to send an Inquisitor after me. And when she found me, we had a slight disagreement. I wanted to live, and she took exception to that. But fortunately, we were swiftly interrupted by the worsening of the unusual rain, which afforded my escape from K4 as the weather spiraled out of control across the planet. Seeing as entering a top secret facility is a type of trick you can only pull off once without being captured, locked up, or turned into a servitor, I had to go down new avenues to procure the information that I am about to provide to you. Said information pertains to the Horus Heresy. Joining forces with the rogue trader proved unexpectedly fruitful. This, along with the resurgence of the Primarchs, which made securing old secrets a challenge for the Imperium, meant I was granted a boon in seeking clandestine knowledge. For security purposes, this broadcast originates from a distant planet facilitated by a servitor armed with a remote control and a self-destruct mechanism. Fate favored me amidst the planetary cataclysm which ravaged K4, offering me the escape I required to continue these broadcasts. Thus, I present these logs as Imperial Scholar Saturni, documenting the secrets hidden by the Imperium in the turbulent era known as the Horus Heresy. In the annals of Imperial history, a singular cataclysm emerged, shattering the very fabric of unity that the Emperor had woven together. This is the Horus Heresy, a seismic civil war that scarred the era of M31, which stands not only as a chronicle of strife, but as a testament to the fragility of the Imperium's very foundations. This event would be triggered by the insidious machinations of chaos. This rebellion found fertile ground in factors that corroded the loyalty of the Legio Astartes and the Primarchs, in particular the enigma of the Emperor's clandestine endeavors on Terra, concealed even from his sons, the Primarchs. This would birth a bitter harvest of distrust and disillusionment. His withdrawal from the Great Crusade to pursue undisclosed projects sowed the seeds of abandonment amongst his favorite son, Horus Lupercal, the Warmaster, along with his brethren, fostering a rift that widened over time. Simultaneously, the ascent of the Council of Terra would rankle the proud Primarchs, perceiving these mortal bureaucrats as interlopers, usurping their divine dominion. The Legio Astartes harbored resentment towards a future where humanity, not the Emperor's kin, would govern. However, the heresy would find its incendiary spark in the chastisement of Lorgar and the Word-bearers. The Emperor's censure of their veneration of his divine stature drove them into the arms of chaos. Disillusioned, they sought solace and power in the abyss, eventually weaving a web of treachery aimed at the Emperor's undoing. Covertly, the Word-bearers seeded the tendrils of rebellion, establishing clandestine warrior lodges within other legions, insidiously sowing the seeds of dissent by posing an affectation of brotherhood. However, startling revelations from the lips of Malcador the Sigillite himself, the first Lord of the Imperium, hint at a secretive orchestration. According to his records, both him and the Emperor instigated discord amongst the Primarchs, envisioning a future where mankind, not superhuman overlords, would reign supreme. Yet the malevolent forces of chaos intervened, casting their dark shadow over these designs and precipitating the calamitous denouncement that unfolded during the Horus Heresy. The enigmatic tale spun by Malcador teeters on the precipice between truth and deception. Cloaked in ambiguity, its veracity remains shrouded, leaving the chronicles of this dark epoch veiled in an impenetrable haze of uncertainty. In the wake of the Horus Heresy's shadow loomed the Triumph of Ullanor, a spectacle etched in the annals of Imperial history. This grand event occurred in the late 30th millennium at the monumentous crusade against the Ork Empire, which was commanded over by Overlord Uruk. Ullanor itself was the epicenter of the Greenskins' domain, which bore witness to the culmination of a colossal endeavor, where the might of the Imperium coalesced. Embarked upon this campaign were 100,000 Space Marines, accompanied by 8 million valiant Imperial Army troops, alongside a fleet of Imperial starships. and a myriad of support staff, symbolizing the zenith of the Great Crusade and the tireless efforts of humanity's attempts to reunite their scattered worlds. The Ullanor Crusade epitomized the Imperium's triumph over the largest concentration of Orks in recorded history. Even though said Orks were vanquished, this event would eventually serve as a precursor for the cataclysmic Wars for Armageddon, which would unfold on this very same planet eons later in the 41st millennium. The aftermath of this triumph reverberated across the cosmos, echoed by the Emperor's decree to metamorphose Ullanor into Mundus Temporum, a trophy world which would memorialize this crusade in galactic records, and it stood as a testament to the prowess and valor of all who fought for the cause of humanity, and for the longest time it would immortalize the grandeur of this conquest. For 2 centuries, the Emperor's relentless pursuit had traversed the galaxies, forging alliances, quelling Xenos threats, and regretfully subduing those who resisted Imperial unity through force. However, a portentous shift loomed, destined to pivot upon the terrain of Ullanor, altering the course of history for solar decades, standard centuries, and even millennia. The vivid spectacle of the Triumph of Ullanor, etched in indelible memories in the hearts of every Astartes, a beacon of unity amidst the impending darkness of the Horus Heresy. The preparations for such a monumentous event would witness the efforts of the Mechanicum, reshaping the scarred terrain into a ceremonial stage befitting the glory of victory. Geomorpher platoons wielded ancient Mechanicum technology to sculpt the land, interring millions of Orkish remains beneath transplanted rocks and the remains of shattered mountains. Amidst the landscape, an expansive boulevard emerged, adorned by marker posts, which were further adorned with the skulls of the Orkish commanders who had resisted the Emperor's will. Flanked by ethereal flames of promethium, the gathering bore witness to a majestic assembly where the Imperial army and Titan legions formed an impenetrable fortress around the commemoration. Each individual present had been selected for their exceptional valor and conduct. Then they would be bestowed with the Ullanor Triumph Bar, a symbol forged from reclaimed bolter shells. The scene unfolded with the colossal presence of the Collegia Technica war machines, who were a testament to Imperial might, while aerospace fighters painted the skies with their contrails. High above, Imperial warships sailed through the upper atmosphere in an affirmation of loyalty to the Emperor and the unity of mankind. The Triumph of Ullanor was such an imposing event that even the presence of the Space Marine legions was represented by their Primarchs, a gathering of superhuman beings like no other would occur. They were almost akin to gods and angels incarnate. Amongst this illustrious assembly was Mortarion at the helm of the Death Guard, Fulgrim, who exuded resplendence and grace while adorned in opulent finery as he radiated a shimmer of gold and platinum, Magnus the Red, the enigmatic lord of the unknown, a figure whose soul mirrored the elusive mysteries of the warp and its lethal, ethereal enigmas as he presented an inscrutable countenance. In contrast, Lorgar Aurelian was seen as a brooding zealot even back then, as he concealed an intense fervor within himself, his quiet demeanor betraying a deep-seated passion. Angron, the embodiment of unbridled rage and anguish, a gladiator-like lord whose volatile fury shimmered perpetually on the edge of eruption, which remained turbulent even amidst this gathering. Rogel Dorn, the unyielding Imperial fist, who epitomized unwavering determination and implacable focus, mirrored the indomitable bastion of loyalty and readiness. There was also Jagatai Khan of the White Scars, who adorned his ornate armor with a tapestry of over 1,000 narratives. Each step across the terrain was a testament to his legion's long-standing narrative traditions. There was also Sanguinius, the noble figure at the head of the Blood Angels, accompanied by his revered sanguinary guard, donning formidable wings much like their father. At the pinnacle of this assembly stood Horus, the hero of Ullanor, and the future Imperial Warmaster, adorned with an unprecedented Imperial title that resounded with the echo of his name, The declaration by the Emperor bestowing the supreme military mantle of Warmaster upon Horus was followed by his announcing of his own retreat to Terra for a clandestine undertaking which was shrouded in secrecy. Said secrecy stunned the assembled dignitaries of these legions. Thus, within the vast expanse of Ullanor's triumph, and amidst the presence of these titans and leaders, a seismic shift would ripple throughout the fabric of the very Imperium itself, heralding an era marked by decisions that would echo across the corridors of time and shape the destiny of mankind itself. This shift was in large part due to Horus Lupercal's new esteemed title as Imperial Warmaster, as he was entrusted with supreme command over the Imperium's military forces, which would include his brother's legions, in essence becoming first amongst equals. This shift in leadership sparked disquietude amongst the Primarchs, which was exacerbated due to the Emperor choosing to withdraw from active participation in battles and veiling his intentions upon returning to Terra. Delving deep beneath the Imperial Palace into his Imperial dungeons, the Emperor would embark on a clandestine undertaking, an ambitious endeavor to create a human extension into the labyrinthian dimension known as a webway, aided by select agents of the Mechanicum, along with Malcador the Sigillite and his very own Custodes, with the military campaigns now entrusted to the Primarch's very own wills and the newly appointed Warmaster Horus. The Emperor could completely redirect the attention of his trusted aides such as Malcador and Fabricator General Calber Hall towards his new project. Their new mandate centered around the establishment of the Council of Terra, a civilian governing body entrusted with administering Imperial law, overseeing Imperial tithes, and managing the intricacies of governing the vast Imperium of Man. Malcador would assume the pivotal role of Regent of Terra, and he would preside as the First Lord of the Council, joined by dignitaries such as Constantine Valdor of the Legio Custodes and masters from key Imperium departments. As the council commenced its governance, the Emperor immersed himself further still into his subterranean workshops, tirelessly dedicating his efforts into his new and mysterious project. However, the formation of the council brewed further unrest amongst the distant Primarchs, whose dismay grew upon learning of this decision. The Primarchs felt aggrieved, viewing the council as an affront to their sacrifices and a usurpation of their rightful role in governing the Imperium. This discontentment seeded further resentment, which became a fertile ground for the insidious machinations of the ruinous powers. Horus, later rallying support for his rebellion against the Emperor, weaponized this discontent, as he portrayed the Emperor's actions as a direct betrayal of their trust, emphasizing the sidelining of the Primarchs in favor of mortal administrators and tech adepts. Horus depicted a vision of an Imperium burdened by bureaucratic encumbrances and bereft of the martial vigor it once possessed, as being the outcome of these decisions. Thus, the creation of the Council of Terra becoming a major catalyst of dissent, which mirrors the current issues the loyal Primarchs face when contending with the Council. Amidst the monumental shifts which resonated with certain Primarchs was the apprehension that stemmed from the belief that their accomplishments, the triumphs of themselves and their brothers, risked oblivion akin to that of ancient Terra's forgotten civilizations. Such fear, hubris, and misplaced pride paved a path for Horus's tragic descent into the clutches of chaos. This marked the genesis of the cataclysm of civil war, which would plunge the galaxy into an enduring age of darkness. However, Horus and his disillusioned kin misinterpreted the Emperor's vision behind the Council of Terra's creation. Far from a coup against his Primarchs, it was designed as an administrative core which the Emperor envisioned as being vested in mortal hands. The governance of the Imperium would be executed through bureaucratic mechanisms, not wielded by an elevated military aristocracy. The Primarchs were to be revered and their space marines consecrated as they conceived the actualization of the Emperor's dream, a unified human imperium shielded against a myriad of threats. They were never intended to be rulers, nor to be overlords of humanity, or even an immortal hereditary caste who imposed domination through sheer might. Their mandate, rather, was to safeguard humanity, not to usurp the mantle of tyrants. The Primarchs and the Space Marines were to be guardians, not overlords. In the annals of history, the moment preceding the start of the heresy proper, being the saga which occurred on Isstvan III, a grim tale whose roots unfolded within the Word-Bearer's Legion, long before the shadow of the Horus Heresy loomed. Their Primarch, Lorgar, would harbor an unwavering devotion, pledging both himself and his Astartes to the service of the ruinous powers. This was rooted in his fervent religiosity. Lorgar was a zealot of profound conviction by nature, who perceived visions of himself heralding the Emperor as a divine being. His dogmatic fervor, birthed by the relentless religious strife of his homeworld, Cloiches, led him to seeking to enshrine the worship of the Emperor as the dominant creed across the galaxy. When the Emperor finally reclaimed his son, Cloiches stood united under Lorgar's cult of the God Emperor. A jubilant spectacle would occur, an extravagant portrayal of piety that endured for solar months. Yet the Emperor, disapproving of organized religion as a deviation from the Imperial truth, remained aloof. His mission in the Great Crusade was not to bind humanity in the shackles of superstition, but to illuminate their minds with reason and science. Following these fervent celebrations, Lorgar would assume mastery of the 17th Legion of Space Marines, which would be rechristened as the Word Bearers, in allegiance to the Primarchs' religious doctrine. Cor Ferron, Lorgar's adopted father and spiritual mentor, augmented as a rare adult space marine, joined the Word Bearers as an influential figure, albeit he would not be considered a true Astartes. He ascended as Lorgar's confidant, lieutenant, and commander of the Legion's elite First Company, furthering his religious devotion. Throughout the Great Crusade, the Word Bearers would embark on a relentless mission to purge heresy and blasphemy from the Imperium. They incinerated ancient texts and icons. Then they would erect monuments venerating the Emperor as the divine entity of humanity. Profound treatises extolling the Emperor's divinity echoed across the conquered worlds, all orchestrated by the Legion's eminent chaplains. Despite their gradual pace in assimilating worlds, the Word Bearers wielded religious zealotry as a potent tool, securing unwavering devotion and loyalty to the Imperium through their tactics. In this early epoch, Lorgar authored the Laetitia Divinatus, paradoxically prophetic as it would later catalyze the inception of the Imperial cult and the Ecclesiarchy, which in essence binds the current Imperium together, despite being a traitor. This was a tome that etched the Emperor as the rightful god of humanity, rather ironic considering its authorship. During the time preceding the dark clouds of the Horus Heresy, some 40 years prior, the fervent loyalty of Lorgar and the Word Bearers Legion to the Emperor and his Imperium remained beyond reproach. Their compliant worlds dutifully rendered tithes in the Emperor's name, and the mandates of Terra reverberated unchallenged across these liberated domains under the Word Bearer's sway. For almost a full century, Lorgar and his legion propelled the Emperor's Great Crusade, unmarred by the Emperor's reprimand, despite their fervent worship and divergence from the Imperial truth that would trouble the Emperor deeply regardless. Despite the Emperor's parental affections, he grew increasingly discontent by Lorgar's unyielding adherence to his faith, which conflicted with the core principles of reason and science. Initially tolerant, the Emperor found his patience strained as the Great Crusade progressed, dismayed by the Word Bearers' sluggish conquests and their strict enforcement of religious doctrine, which continued to clash more and more starkly with his vision for a secular imperium, led the Emperor to become determined to purge the influence of organized religion from his son and the worlds he conquered. The Emperor dispatched a formidable task force led by the Ultramarines Primarch Rabut Guilliman to obliterate Monarchia. This was an emblem of religious devotion to the Emperor, founded by Lorgar, essentially working as his city on a hill. The Word-bearers, under Lorgar's command, faced the Emperor's wrathful censure on Kor's desolate surface, bearing witness to the psychic coercion that compelled all, including Lorgar, to kneel at his father's feet. The Primarch was shattered by his father's condemnation, plunging him into a profound despair. Feeling abandoned, Lorgar secluded himself, save for Cor Ferron, the Word-bearer's first captain, and Erebus, the Legion's first chaplain. These trusted confidants empathized with Lorgar's unfulfilled spiritual yearnings, steering his thoughts towards the ancient gods of Cloch's old faith, entities that accepted zealous worship unlike the Emperor. Here, amidst the turmoil of his internal tumult, the sinister veil shrouding the Chaos Gods was unveiled to Lorgar. Enthralled by the prospect of entities embracing his fervor, Lorgar demanded a pilgrimage in pursuit of these newly discovered gods, marking the seeds of the coming heresy within the bosom of the Word-bearer's Legion, the former most pious worshippers of the Emperor. Prompted by both First Captain Cor Ferron and First Chaplain Erebus, both who were previously clandestine adherents to the Chaos Gods via Cloch's old faith, Lorgar embarked on a pivotal journey with the Word-bearer's Legion and part of the 1301's expeditionary fleet of the Great Crusade, venturing into the uncharted peripheries of known Imperial space. At this juncture, Lorgar had yet to succumb to Chaos's corruption, but he had relinquished his reverence for the Emperor of Mankind, deeming him an unworthy deity to be worshipped. Disillusioned with the Emperor's dismissal of humanity's innate pursuit of the divine, Lorgar sought to explore the existence of deities more deserving of mankind's reverence. Though severed from his former loyalty and affection for the Emperor, Lorgar and his legion nominally rejoined the Great Crusade, their efforts cloaked behind a facade, dedicated solely into furthering the pilgrimage of Lorgar. Accompanying the Word-bearers were 5 members of the Legio Custodes, tasked by the Emperor to vigilantly oversee their actions, in particular preventing any reoccurrence of past transgressions. Their quest for insight into the primordial truth, or the realms where mortals and deities interacted, led Lorgar's expeditionary fleet to the Cadia system, which was proximal to the galaxy's largest warp storm, known as the Eye of Terror. The expeditionary fleet's Master of Astropaths conveyed an alarming revelation to Lorgar, peculiar voices resonating from within the vicinity of the colossal warp rift, voices that communed directly with the Primarch. These ethereal utterances were none other than the chaotic entities dwelling within the Immaterium. In this faithful encounter within the Cadia system, Lorgar's suspicions found validation, unraveling the reality that mired religions across the galaxy, echoing parallels with his homeworld's old faith. They showed him that they were not merely fragments of the human psyche, but manifestations of worship, revealing the universal truth embodied by chaos. This revelation of the primordial truth concerning the existence of chaos instigated a profound transformation within Lorgar and the Word-bearers. Exposed to the ruinous powers, they underwent a gradual corruption, marking the inaugural descent of a Space Marine Legion into the worship of the Chaos Gods, fostering a clandestine descent against the Emperor. Through the remaining years of the Great Crusade, Lorgar and his legion embarked on a mission to illuminate humanity regarding the authentic spiritual fabric of the universe. Yet their efforts to enlighten humanity floundered, so they resorted to subterfuge and deceit, manipulating 9 Primarchs, notably including the Warmaster, Horus, into aligning with the cause of chaos, as dictated by their newfound deities. Recognizing that humanity's enlightenment through chaos necessitated a forcible departure from the Emperor's proclaimed imperial truth, Lorgar willingly orchestrated pivotal conflicts such as the horrific Battle of Isstvan III, the ruthless drop-site massacre of Isstvan V, and ultimately the cataclysmic Horus Heresy. As Horus openly revolted against the Emperor, the word-bearers swiftly rallied behind him, standing as one of the primary legions to endorse his cause. Moreover, worlds conquered by the word-bearers, subsequent to their embrace of chaos, seamlessly aligned with the traitors, having been surreptitiously ensnared to the worship of the ruinous powers during the twilight era of the Great Crusade. Another factor that must be noted is that during the Great Crusade, the idealistic image of the Primarchs as paragons of humanity who were flawless was shattered. Despite their superhuman stature, each Primarch was marred by flaws inherent to their human nature: vanity, egoism, hunger for power, jealousy, arrogance, amongst many others. All of these would be avenues for chaos to corrupt the greatest of humanity. Upon assuming command of the Great Crusade, Warmaster Horus dedicated himself earnestly to his newfound responsibilities. However, discord was already brewing amongst the Primarchs and factions within the Imperium concerning the Emperor's decision to withdraw from the campaign and the restructure of the Imperium. Amidst this turmoil, only a select few, including the cunning Lorgar, remained steadfast by the Warmaster's side. Discontent also brewed over the Council of Terra's decrees, as they kept shifting administrative power and tax burdens onto the newly subjugated worlds without interaction from the Primarchs who had so recently conquered them. This was a point of contention that clashed with Horus's very own vision. More troublingly, Horus grappled with a sense of failure towards his father, aggravated by the Emperor's clandestine actions on Terra and his secret webway project, which he kept secret even from his favored son. These seeds of bitterness, festering in resentment and frustration, would sow a harvest of treacherous conquests, which Lorgar, and through him chaos, would reap. The pivotal turn in Horus's fate transpired on Davin's moon, where his legion, the Luna Wolves, had previously embraced Davinite warrior lodges. These lodges, once innocuous warrior fraternities, became instruments for Lorgar and his first chaplain to manipulate Horus and his sons, steering him towards the worship of the Chaos Gods. Originating from Cloichus, a world steeped in religious fervor, Lorgar's word-bearers had venerated the Emperor's deity, seeking to propagate this belief across the Imperium. However, with the Emperor's vehement opposition to organized religion and his chastisement of the Legion, Lorgar would redirect this zealotry and use many of the same tactics which had been implemented against humanity to direct them towards the worship of the Emperor against Space Marines of his brother's legions, in order to turn the legions themselves, along with their fathers, towards the worship of the ruinous powers. Throughout the tumult of war, chaos spawned what amounts to undead on Davin's moon. It was during engagements here that he would face a perilous fate. Unknowingly engaged in a battle against a chaos-infested planetary governor, Eugene Temba, Horus fell victim to a poisoned blade, the Keenbrak anathema, which was tainted by the dark deity Nurgle. This blade was originally stolen by Erebus from the Interax civilization, and it had found its way into Temba's hands after he had succumbed to the worship of Nurgle. Mutated and empowered, Temba transformed his Imperial army garrison into an undead plague of zombified monstrosities, compelling the Luna Wolves to confront the abominations. Horus personally clashed with Temba, sustaining a grievous wound from the malevolent living metal, a wound that defied conventional healing, leaving him in a dire state. Exploiting this vulnerability, Erebus swayed the Luna Wolves Warrior Lodge to seek aid from Davinite shamans, who in reality were chaos cultists at the Temple of the Serpent Lodge. Despite contradicting the Imperial Truth's doctrines, said shamans were quickly employed by the Luna Wolves in a desperate attempt to save Horus. A dark ritual would unfold within the temple. In an unforeseen turn, Horus's spirit was transported into the Immaterium, where a harrowing vision was unfolded. Witnessing a future Imperial dystopia where the Emperor and a select group of Primarchs were deified. Horus realized the tragic outcome of his actions, and said realization was manipulated by the Chaos Gods in their favor. Meanwhile, Magnus the Red, employing forbidden psychic sorcery, foresaw Horus's descent into chaos and endeavored to forewarn the Emperor. However, Magnus's warnings were transmitted through psychic channels, and he mistakenly breached the psychic defenses at the Imperial Palace. The Emperor, misconstruing the warning as a betrayal due to his decisions on Nicaea, dispatched Leman Russ, the Space Wolves, along with the Sisters of Silence and a group of custodies led by Constantine Valdor to apprehend Magnus for defying the Council of Nicaea's ban on psychic powers within the Imperium. En route to confront Magnus, Horus manipulated Russ, convincing him to launch a devastating assault on Prospero, instead of adhering to the Emperor's orders to bring Magnus to him for a trial. Manipulated by the entities of the Immaterium, Magnus would then become eager to confront the Emperor's judgment, and he found himself at the mercy of Horus's cunning manipulation, escalating a catastrophic series of events that would forever alter his fate and the fate of the Imperium. As the era was overshadowed by chaos and betrayal, Isstvan III would occur, a tragic stage where loyalty clashed with treachery, forever altering the fate of the Imperium. Under the veil of secrecy, the Wordbearers Legion had long embraced chaos, and through this they began to prepare to eliminate those who would oppose them. Isstvan III, a planet marred by the pervasive influences of Slaanesh, saw a corrupted planetary governor, Vardus Praal, challenge the Imperium's rule. Charged by the Council of Terra to reclaim this rebellious world, Horus seized the opportunity to unfold a clandestine scheme he and the Wordbearers had laid the groundwork for. All of this was unbeknownst to the Emperor. Gathering his forces, the sons of Horus, the World Eaters, the Death Guard, and the Emperor's children, Horus orchestrated a devastating ploy. After bombarding Isstvan III, he dispatched loyalist Astartes under the pretense of reclamation. Yet in a moment of supposed triumph, tragedy struck. Virus bombs, unleashed by Horus's fleet, would descend on these loyalist elements from the traitor legions, decimating the unsuspecting loyalists. In the midst of chaos, Captain Sol Tarvitz and Battle Captain Nathaniel Garrow endeavored to warn their brethren of the impending doom, a heroic attempt that saved some loyalist Astartes. However, 8 billion lives on Isstvan III perished horrifically as the lethal virus bombs wrought havoc, resonating throughout the warp to such a degree that it caused the Astronomicon to falter. Amidst the chaos, Primarch Angron of the World Eaters, unsatisfied with the bombardment's efficiency, led a frenzied assault, disregarding strategy for sheer brutality. Horus, incensed by the delay, reinforced Angron's onslaught, transforming the battlefield into a nightmarish realm of slaughter and death. Nevertheless, a glimmer of hope remained, as Battle Captain Garrow escaped on board the damaged frigate known as the Eisenstein, in an event which would later be known as the Flight of the Eisenstein, as he raced to Terra to forewarn the Emperor of Horus's betrayal. However, on Isstvan III, the valiant efforts of Captain Talvitz, Gavriel Loken, and Tarek Targadon continued. Despite delaying Horus's machinations, they would succumb to the overwhelming might of their traitorous brethren. Engulfed in a relentless battle, the Loyalists, though resilient, faced insurmountable odds. Without air support or Titan firepower, yet amidst this turmoil, the sons of Horus and the Emperor's children saw former allies turned foes, pitting brother against brother in a heart-rending conflict. Ultimately, the Loyalists were reduced to a few hundred as they made their final stand, witnessing the Coral City's annihilation by Horus's decree, marking the harrowing conclusion of the Isstvan III atrocity. In the wake of chaos and betrayal, the Flight of the Eisenstein heralded a pivotal juncture in the tumultuous events of the heresy, marked by the resilience and a desperate quest to unveil the truth. 70 loyalists from the Death Guard Legion, led by Battle Captain Garo and guided by Imperial Saint Euphrates Keeler, commandeered the ailing Imperial frigate Eisenstein. Their perilous escape from Isstvan III, evading the treacherous clutches of Horus's forces, saw the frigate have a valiant confrontation with the Death Guard battleship Terminus Est, resulting in severe damage to the vessel. Within the Imperium's more secured territory, the horrors would persist as the Eisenstein faced a malevolent assault of Nurgle's minions, including the first known plague marines in history. Forced into a crash emergence from the warp, the frigate would endure this nearly insurmountable turmoil, which claimed the lives of all astropaths and mortally wounding the sole navigator. Amidst the chaos, Garo, displaying ingenuity, initiated a desperate signal by self-destructing the frigate's warp drives, which would catch the attention of Primarch Rogel Dorn of the Imperial Fists. Dorn's legion would intercept the distress calls, and eventually there would be an encounter between Dorn and Garo. Initially hesitant and rather perturbed by Garo's tale, Dorn would be swayed by the irrefutable proof provided by Mercedes Oliton, who fled from Horus's very own flagship, the Vengeful Spirit. With conviction, the fortress monastery known as the Phalanx set course for Terra, tasked with delivering the chilling revelation of Horus's betrayal to the Emperor. The fate of the Eisenstein's survivals, however, would remain shrouded by mystery. Upon their arrival in the Luna system, they would be sequestered within a tower commanded by the Sisters of Silence. Garo, his loyal Death Guard comrades, and Captain Lacton Querzel of the Luna Wolves would encounter a Death Guard Marine, Saloon Decius, who was afflicted by Nurgle's rot. Succumbing to despair, Saloon allowed his possession by a lesser demon of Nurgle, unleashing a harrowing encounter with the Lord of Flies. Their harrowing journey would continue past this, as Garo, Captain Querzel, and Captain Querz met Malcador the Sigillite, the Emperor's right hand, and his regent, who tasked them with an arduous mission, ordered to seek out 7 Astartes across both traitor and loyalist legions. They were destined to become the founding members of the Imperial Inquisition and the formidable demon-hunting forces known as the Grey Knights, instrumental in the defense of humanity against the chaotic tides threatening its very existence. To better understand what led the forces to where they were, we must delve into the tangled web of alliances and ideological clashes as we spot and focus on 2 pivotal events which occurred during the onset of the Horus Heresy, namely the Lair campaign and the campaign of Chondax, which would reveal the intricate dynamics and alliances amongst the Legion of Astartes. Fulgrim, Primarch of the Emperor's Children, led his legion into conflict against the Lair, an alien race discovered in the Larian star system. The Xenos, resembling the pursuit of perfection which the Emperor's children and their Primarch were so known for, faced annihilation as Fulgrim vehemently rejected the idea of coexistence with such an alien race. The ensuing war displayed unparalleled feats of adaptation and warfare, pitting humanity against a highly evolved foe. Despite the immense casualties, Fulgrim would eventually claim victory, solidifying his belief in humanity's superiority, and through humanity, his own superiority. Meanwhile, a stratagem orchestrated by the traitorous Warmaster Horus diverted the White Scars Legion, entangling them in a lengthy campaign against the Orks and the Alpha Legion operatives stationed within the area. The White Scars, unaware of the heresy's unfolding, fought valiantly, encountering deceitful messages and ambushes orchestrated by the Alpha Legion, all the while decimating the Orks they faced. The Khan's decisive action and cunning allowed the White Scars to escape the Alpha Legion's blockade, as they would go out into the unknown, seeking truth amidst the chaos. Even disregarding the Space Wolves' pleas for aid, due to being unsure whether they were aligned with those who had attacked them. This tumultuous period also witnessed another pivotal event, the Council of Nicaea, a significant gathering initiated by the Emperor in order to deliberate the usage of psychic abilities within the Imperium. Though termed a council, its contentious debates sowed the seeds of dissent, particularly felt by the Thousand Sons Legion, leading them to dub it the Trial of Magnus the Red. This event would significantly shape the fate of the Imperium, and would actually be one of the cornerstones needed for the traitors' ascent during the heresy. In a complex interplay of loyalties, conflicts, and strategic maneuvers, these campaigns and councils underscored the intricacies and fractures within the Imperium that set the stage for the cataclysmic events of the Horus Heresy. As this convoluted saga of anathemas, seemingly unassuming yet potent weapons, their sinister capabilities, and insidious influences on pivotal events during the heresy came to light. In particular, as the tendrils of chaos tightened their grip upon the fabric of the Imperium, Horus, once the venerable Warmaster, strategically aligned himself and his pieces on the galactic chessboard. The labyrinthian machinations that fueled his eventual rebellion most definitely had begun prior to the plans of the forlorn events on Isstvan III. Horus, a master puppeteer, had manipulated the Primarchs, Angron, Mortarion, Fulgrim, and Lorgar, and even Conrad Kurz into the murky folds of chaos, each driven by personal vendettas or promises of power, as they would succumb to the allure granted by the dark gods and rebellion against their father. Meanwhile, loyalist legions such as the Dark Angels, Blood Angels, and Ultramarines were dispatched on distant missions, carefully orchestrated to keep them as far away from Terra as possible and away from the impending tempest on Isstvan. The Imperial fists and white scars were poised on the precipice of loyalty remained beyond Horus's direct reach, as Jagatai Khan's allegiance hung in the balance, which was misconstrued by the Warmaster as him potentially becoming an ally. In a futile attempt, Fulgrim would also seek to sway Ferrus Manus of the Iron Hands, only to be met with defiance and a vow of vengeance made on Isstvan V, which would seal Manus' fate. The traitor Primarchs' destinies unfolded. Conrad Kurz, in particular, had a disdain for an impending retribution he had seen through visions. Alfarius and Omegons misjudged or misguided loyalty, and Pederabo's embittered rivalry with Rogel Dorn all became catalysts for corruption. The Thousand Sons themselves were a most tragic of cases. Initially adverse to betrayal, they were ensnared by a twisted plot woven by Tzeentch, and would ultimately succumb to chaos due to the unforeseen circumstances triggered by Leman Russ's ruthless assault on Prospero. As the atrocities on Isstvan V occurred, the loyalist Space Marine legions of the Raven Guard, Salamanders, and Iron Hands were torn asunder. However, them, along with the Space Wolves, would stand resolute against the encroaching darkness. But as the looming battles continued to exact tolls, especially on those without the unyielding loyalty of the Space Wolves, it would appear Horus would not be content with just the corruption of Primarchs alone, as he would go on to court the Adeptus Mechanica, bending Magus Regulus to his cause with the allure of standard template construct databases yet unknown. This unholy alliance ensured the flow of crucial Adeptus Mechanicus and Titan support to the traitor forces. In tandem with Horus and his sinister confidant Erebus would engage in a ritual to commune with the warp. A demon named Skarel emerged as the emissary of chaos, weaving a web of deception and malady around Horus, deceiving him into believing that chaos sought only to thwart the Emperor's alleged eradication plan, as he pledged his loyalty to Chaos Undivided after implementing the horrors of Isstvan III and V. As the chessboard neared its final moves, on the onset of this climactic war, the dark tendrils of chaos entwined ever more closely and tightly upon the destiny of the Imperium, setting the stage for the climactic events that would unfold after Isstvan. It appears this is where we must leave off for now, as in order to avoid any trace of this being followed back to me and the rogue traitor who is so kindly allowing me respite on his ship, I must terminate this servitor. However, worry not, the next broadcast will dive more deeply into the following events of the Horus Heresy.